Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Book a Week. Today we are reading Taking Hold by Francisco Jiménez, page 155. The chapter is called A New Life. Let's get started. Our plan to start a family 2 years after getting married fell into place once I passed the PhD comprehensive exams. At the recommendation of Professor Tudisco and Redondo de Feldman, I was promoted to instructor, teaching full-time in the School of General Studies, which doubled my salary and qualified me for Columbia faculty housing near the university. My mother and siblings were doing better financially. Trumpita was returning home from the army safe and sound. Torito had finished his Associates of Art degree at Hancock College and continued working part-time as a custodian while attending Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. My mother was now employed at St. Mary's Hospital as a nurse aide, and Ruben and Rora, both in high school, worked in the fields on weekends. My father's health was improving. He had finally gone to see a doctor about his stomach problems and had a tumor the size of an egg removed from his large intestine, even though he continued to suffer from headaches and back problems. He managed to help Tia and Chana and her husband sell masonry materials out of their coral backyard. Laura and I could now afford to have a child without both of us were having to work outside the home, and we would continue to help my family as best as we could. Laura left her teaching position at Notre Dame Academy at the end of the school year, and that summer we moved to Upper Manhattan. I no longer had to commute 3 hours a day. We left a green and peaceful island and moved into a noisy, grimy, densely populated one covered in concrete and surrounded by students, professors, and poor and elderly people lived in rent-controlled high-rise apartments. It was unsafe to walk alone at night on Broadway from 116th to 96th. Signs posted at the entrance to Morningside Park read, "High crime area, enter at your own risk." Our new home was an apartment in an old 4-story building at 608 West 113th Street between Broadway and Riverside Drive. It measured approximately 500 square feet and was on the first floor, a few feet back from the two-door entrance to the building. It had a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a living room that had been divided in half to create a bedroom. The bedroom had a tiny window which looked onto the red brick wall of the adjacent apartment building and a door that opened out to a small cement backyard that had so many cracks it looked like a gray road map. The living room window, with bars attached, had a view of the back of a tall apartment building that cast a shadow like a gloomy dark cloud. Laura and I cleaned the apartment and made it as spotless as we could. She washed the greasy kitchen wall, stove, and shelves and countertops, and I scrubbed the toilet with cleanser and steel wool. I borrowed a floor scrubbing machine from the university's housekeeping office, and to our surprise, under the filth was a nice dark brown cork floor. Laura lined the kitchen shelves and covered the area behind the stove with floral design contract paper, and we filled in the gaps around the water pipes with extra fine steel wool to prevent cockroaches from creeping in. 2 weeks after we had settled in on the 10th of July, Laura came home from seeing the doctor. She was beaming. "I'm pregnant. The test came back positive. We're gonna have a baby." She could hardly keep still. "We're gonna have a baby," I exclaimed. Laura and I embraced and kissed and jumped up and down like silly children on a trampoline. I felt pure, soaring joy. "I wonder what our baby will look like," I said after calming down. "I hope it has big brown eyes like yours." I felt an intense passion of caring and loving for her and our child. We immediately called the families to tell them the great news. And later that day, I sent a letter to her grandparents when Laura told me she was expecting. I wrote, "She looked like she had been to heaven. The thought of being the father to her child makes me very proud and happy." After going through many possible Spanish names, we came up with two: Cecilia, if a girl, and Francisco Andres, if a boy, in honor of my father and Professor Andres Duarte. Laura's pregnancy went smoothly. She had unending energy and enthusiasm for doing things. She took a sewing class at Riverside Church and made her own maternity clothes and curtains for the windows. She took care of household chores and monthly finances, sending money to my mother and father and putting $25 in our savings account whenever possible. She cooked special meals for some of my students who could not go home for the holidays, and she read scholarly articles to me for my dissertation research whenever I was too tired to read them myself. Occasionally, Professor Duarte and his wife, Gracilia, also came over for dinner, and sometimes they invited us to their home, when with Professor Redondo de Feldman and her husband Kenny. On Monday, March 8, 1971, I was sound asleep when suddenly I felt Laura pull back the bed covers. "What's wrong?" I asked, wiping my eyes with the back of my hand and glancing at the clock. It was 6 a.m. "I think it's time," she said. I jumped out of bed, turned on the light, and quickly started to get dressed. "I'll call a cab while you get ready." "Don't get a cab, we'll walk," she said. "The hospital is only 3 blocks away." "Yeah, 3 long blocks." We bundled up and rushed out the door. It was freezing cold. We walked cautiously half a block on the snow-covered sidewalk to the corner of 113th and Broadway, and over Laura's objection, I hailed a cab to St. Luke's Women's Hospital on 114th Street in Amsterdam. I said. The driver made a face. "It's only 2 blocks away," he said under his breath. After being admitted, Laura was put in the maternity ward. I kept her company and coached her through her contractions as they became more and more frequent. Dr. Panayotopoulos, her obstetrician, an imposing woman, came in periodically to check on Laura's progress. Time dragged on and on. Finally, at 6:30 in the evening, she was taken into the delivery room. Dr. Panayotopoulos handed me a mask and gown and asked me to put it on and step out into the hallway. "I'll call you in when she's ready to deliver." I waited impatiently, pacing up and down the corridor. I kept looking at my watch, wondering why it was taking so long. Was she all right? After about 20 endless minutes, Dr. Panayotopoulos came out of the delivery room. "You can come in now. Congratulations, it's a boy." I was elated but confused and disappointed that I did not see him being born. "I'm terribly sorry I didn't call you in earlier. I forgot you were out here waiting," she added, when she noticed my puzzlement and displeasure. I was taken by emotion when I saw Laura lying in bed with our baby on her chest. She looked exhausted but radiant and contented. "It's our boy," she said. "Isn't he beautiful?" He had short legs, a long torso, and a head full of bright red hair. "He is." I felt an all-consuming love I had never experienced before. Laura and I kissed and cried with happiness. Our lives had changed forever. And that is the end of chapter 20. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune back in later.